It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. The best blanket ever is also the best Valentine's gift ever. Exclusive Valentine's blankets only available at Minky Couture. My son was wrapped up in one all night last night during the Super Bowl. Loved it. Heavy and very soft. Everything you're looking for. Save 50% right now using the promo code ZONE50 at Minky Couture stores and online, minkycouture.com. ZONE50. Get 50% off. All right, it's time for your top 3 stories at KSLSports.com, brought to you by our friends at J. Brooks Jewelers. J. Brooks, cherish your loved ones with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials with 2 locations up and down the Wasatch Front. Also, a fabulous idea for Valentine's Day. Not too late. Go check them out today. Christian, where are we starting today?
Number 1, we got the Jazz at the Heat tonight. And Ben, over the weekend, we got the first taste of Jaren Jackson Jr. in a Jazz uniform.
I thought he was fabulous. If you watched the game on Saturday, very highly anticipated. I tweeted out this had to be one of the most highly anticipated games for the Jazz, and I can't remember how long. And some fans said the last time the Jazz were in the playoffs, their last playoff loss to the Dallas Mavericks. Bojan Bogdanovic misses the potential game-tying 3 in the corner. And the Jazz really haven't been back since then. But Jaren Jackson Jr. came out and was really just had a very strong outing. Though he finished the night with 22 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, which, by the way, Jazz fans, get used to that stat line. He is a scorer. He is not a rebounder. He's an okay passer. He's not a great passer. But he did also add 3 steals. He did not have a block in this game, but you certainly saw his impact on the defensive side of the ball. But offensively, I thought he was really good. And I do think he offers something that the Jazz don't have, which is just somebody who is much bigger and much stronger than the guy who's guarding him. And while Nurk is much heavier than most people guarding him and thus much stronger, he's not a great finisher. We've seen his shooting percentage at the rim this year. He misses a lot of layups, speaking of Yusuf Nurkic. And Lauri Markkanen is all athleticism. You know, his best skill is moving off the ball with his speed and his size. But Lauri is really not going to push through anybody. He's not going to back anybody down. It was pretty amazing to watch how often the Jazz crossed half court, just gave the ball to Jaren Jackson Jr., and he just bodied guys. I mean, he just moved them out of the way, almost like a defensive tackle, or a really strong interior offensive lineman, just moving dudes out of the way to get where he wanted to on the court. And then he's got that little push shot, and Will Hardy talked about it after the game. It's just such a weapon. His touch around the rim is really, really good. So when you can get to your spots on the floor with ease, and you don't have to draw up all these plays, which is something the Jazz have done historically, and we'll have to talk about this more coming up at 11 o'clock, but when you don't have to run anything complicated, and the Jazz had so many turnovers in this game, it almost goes back against what I'm saying. But when you can go down on your offensive side of the ball and give the ball to Jaren Jackson Jr. when he has a mismatch because somebody got matched up with Lauri Markkanen, thinking that that's how they've traditionally guarded the Jazz, and now he's got somebody who's smaller than he is or just not a very good defender, he will take you into the paint, off the dribble, from the three-point line, and then just put you in the basket. And not with a big dunk, but he just has really nice touch around the rim. So he'll push it off the backboard, just a little floater or push shot in the hoop, and it's just really easy. And that's something the Jazz, watching this game, I realized they just have not had an easy offense. They've had an effective offense. They've just not had an easy offense most nights, and I thought that was really revealing.
And the big thing, we had a lot of Memphis guys on the station last week, not just with you and Jake, but throughout the station. A lot of people are really excited to see what Jaren Jackson Jr. looks like as the third option for the Jazz. Because in Memphis, he was asked to carry a pretty big offensive load, especially because Ja was missing so much time with injuries and suspensions and stuff. Yeah. But with the Jazz, ideally, if Key is hot and Lowry is hot, you're not having to rely on Jaren Jackson Jr. But as the third option, I mean, clearly he can do like heavy damage.
Yeah, and what's interesting now for Lowry, and where, Lowry's A-plus offensive player. Like, he's really a phenomenal offensive player. But I can't tell you how many game stories I've written about the Jazz where it's Lowry has 25 points, but the Jazz went 4 minutes in the fourth quarter from the 6-minute mark to the 2-minute mark where Lowry just didn't touch the ball. And he's on the court, and he's obviously the number one option for the team, and he doesn't touch the ball because he has to have shots created for him. Now, once he touches the ball, he can shoot over anybody. But because he plays off the ball so much, he has to run around, he has to get open, you have to run stuff for him to get him open. It's almost a secondary action. With Jaren Jackson Jr., the Jazz just ran down and they just pitched him the ball as soon as they got across half court. And he says, okay, I'll go to work. And while it's a little more boring to watch, in all honesty, and it's going to result in some possessions where if they don't score, people will be like, Jaren Jackson probably should have passed there. That was maybe a little bit of a one-pass clunky performance. You need those. And in the fourth quarter, those become really valuable because it's hard to deny the ball to somebody who's one pass away, especially when the defense has to account for Lauri Markkanen so much. So when Keontae comes back, and it's another part of this, he got hurt again in this game, but when Keontae George is back, and we're talking next year really, and Lowry's playing at full strength, and Jaren Jackson Jr. has been incorporated, that's where I think actually offensively the Jazz are going to get most interesting is when they can go to Jaren Jackson late in the game to create a bucket, which is not what Lowry excels at. And if they sell out to deny him, which is double teaming off the ball, whatever they want to do, commit an extra defender, then Lowry becomes even more dangerous. And there's a lot more ways that I thought Lowry was really good, hence finishing with 27 points. But so was Jaren Jackson Jr. It was an overall good performance, and I think the Jazz would be very thrilled that they sat those guys in the fourth quarter and blew a 17-point lead and still picked up the loss.
And yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about that later because that did stir some controversy around the NBA sphere because of the tank job that the Jazz did with that fourth quarter. But yeah, man, it's tough. I don't know how many games we're going to see with those three, talking about Key, Lowry, and Jaren Jackson Jr. all on the floor, especially with Keontae's injury, TBD on how long he's going to be out with that. Kevin Love, out tonight, no revenge game for him against the Heat.
He had this weird thing where though he had returned to Cleveland earlier this year, Kevin Love got his first kind of like honorary welcome back to Cleveland game when the Jazz were there on their last road trip. So like Kevin Love hadn't been honored yet by the Cavs because he just plays so rarely. And he missed a lot of time last year with the loss of his father. But yeah, he hadn't done like a lot of like return games. So I'll be curious how Miami honors him tonight, returning for the first time. Since having like a pretty good run. He didn't have an elite run in Miami, but pretty good. But yeah, he's not going to be available, nor is Keontae George because of the injury. We'll talk about that more coming up at 11 o'clock. What's next?
It is official. Sam Darnold now with the Super Bowl win. I guess you could say he doesn't suck anymore.
I don't know if watching that game would tell you that. Not that he played poorly by any means. I mean, Drake May truly played awful. I thought Drake May had a couple of good passes, but was just missing guys. I mean, he really was quite poor and had the 2 turnovers. Or the 2 interceptions plus the fumble. But I thought Darnold was the pure representation of the climb being better than the apex. The apex for Sam Darnold last night, I don't think was particularly memorable. He had one good throw that resulted in a touchdown, but like he didn't win the Super Bowl MVP. If you were waiting for the breakout performance, like, oh yeah, he actually is that first-round pick dude, top 5 overall pick. What pick was he? 3rd overall. Like, if you were waiting for that on the biggest stage, he didn't show it. You didn't get that from Sam Darnold. The story is a bum with the Jets, bad location, didn't work out with Carolina, back up in San Francisco, overlooked by Minnesota, underappreciated, and then, yes, wins it all with Seattle. I do think that's the storyline more so than can you believe how good he was in the Super Bowl? And that will always follow him, which is good enough, and that's great, and he's going to have this crown jewel. Christian, what I did think, though, my takeaway is I don't know if what happened this year in the NFL has any impact on what happens the rest of the future for the future of the NFL. I don't think anything that happened this season is going to impact next season in the slightest.
You mean nobody's going to say, oh, let's build out the rest of our roster and then get an average to slightly above average quarterback, and that's how we're going to win it?
No, I think teams will try to replicate that. I do think that's stupid because what is going to happen is you're going to have a team, like we mentioned, the Texans or the Eagles or whoever gets back to a high level. Let's say it's a conference championship game, or maybe it is the Super Bowl. And they're going to get beat by an elite quarterback because, truthfully, if Drake May had been able to do anything right, the Patriots have a great chance to win that game because, again, going into the fourth quarter, it's 12-0. It's not like that was a blowout. It felt like a blowout because the Patriots were so benign. They were just so bad all game offensively. If you had a quarterback who could deliver on a few of those throws, that game looks totally different. And we're saying, yeah, Super Bowl MVP for the New England Patriots, insert name here, anybody other than Drake May. And so when that inevitably happens next season, everybody's going to say, that's why you got to have the quarterback. That's why you got to have the guy. It just so happened that we ended up with two relatively mediocre quarterbacks going head-to-head. So one elite defense did change the game. Now, elite defenses change games even against elite quarterbacks. We saw that with the Patriots and the Giants twice. We've seen it over and over and over where just because you have the great quarterback doesn't necessarily guarantee you a victory. But in this game last night, I thought a good quarterback would have made all the difference for the Patriots, and they just didn't have it. Drake May's just not at that level yet.
And that's why Trent Dilfer and, Nick Foles are such big anomalies because for, I guess, 60 Super Bowls now, 58 of those 60 Super Bowls, or I guess you could say 57 of those 60 Super Bowls have been won by a elite or high-level quarterback. There are just a few very rare instances where everything else goes right.
Yes.
But you don't need the elite quarterback. But, like I said, everything else has to go right. I mean, the Seahawks were a very healthy team coming into this. I know Charbonnet, their number 2 running back who got a lot of goal line carries. He was out with the torn ACL, but Kenneth Walker, clearly showed why he's an elite talent at the running back. JSN, Offensive Player of the Year, and then a phenomenal defense, right?
And I tweeted out, it was almost a Utah-like victory. It was a Kyle Whittingham-like win, right? You're up 12-0, and you're winning because your kicker's not missing field goals. And I'm talking Witt 5 or 6 years ago when Utah was trying to win on the edges. They were finding ways to get to conference championship games or win 8, 9, 10 games by winning in areas where other teams don't because other teams get elite quarterbacks or have elite skill position players outside of the running back. And Utah's winning with field goals, great punting, and a good enough running back or a very good running back. And that's what Seattle did last night. But Utah's bane was always, oh man, if we just had the quarterback, then we could compete at the highest level. Most teams still want to get the quarterback. Seattle didn't have the quarterback, so they had to go win with defense, a great running back, and great special teams. And they have it. We didn't see Rashid Shaheed really shine in this game, but he has throughout the playoffs, and he has since that midseason trade where how many punt returns or kick returns for touchdowns he had? Was it 3 already this season? He had one in the playoffs, so it's great. And we have experience seeing how you can win locally with that formula, but truthfully, you're going to run into a team like Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and they're just going to beat you because the quarterback and wide receiver combination is just better. So while the Seahawks, you get your Super Bowl forever, Sam Darnold's enshrined forever, I don't know if that changes the way the NFL performs going forward, and I think you're right. Random year where the Chiefs are down, Mahomes gets hurt, Bills take a bizarre step backwards, Ravens just not out there, couldn't quite get Lamar Jackson at full strength seemingly throughout the year, and it's just a gap season to me more than an indicator of what's to come in the NFL. All right, what's next?
Number 3, Team USA taking on Switzerland today. Hockey.
Women's hockey. The men are arriving. We were wondering last year, and that by the way, I'm not trying to demean the women's hockey team. They just crushed Finland 5-0, I think, to open the tournament. And they're going to continue, and I think they're going to win this tournament, which is great. I thought they were one of the most exciting aspects of the Winter Olympics 4 years ago. But the men are starting to arrive. We had talked last week, are we going to see Clayton Keller walking with Team USA? Truth is no. Most of the NHL players hadn't gotten there yet, including some of the teams I think were still playing on Thursday. So to fly out and try and make it by Friday morning early for the opening ceremonies was just not going to happen. Did you watch a lot of Olympics over the weekend? Were you able to catch any? I know you were working.
Saw Lindsey Vohn's wipeout. That was unfortunate. Saw some curling, saw some snowboarding action.
Yeah. Had fun so far. Lindsey Vonn, unfortunately, going in as maybe the biggest star of the Olympics for Team USA, and to go out so horribly was really difficult. So, broken leg. Was it the same leg that she tore the ACL on? I could not figure out which leg she tore the ACL on. I'll have to look and find it officially.
It was her left leg.
She broke her left
ACL,
leg.
and I do believe that was the same leg she broke. Yeah.
Okay. So just a brutal finish. I suspect we'll see her move on to media, and I think she'll be really good in the Olympics going forward. I'd love that if we could see that in her, commentating during downhill going forward. But sending all the best to Lindsay, a person who resides here in Utah. So very, very rough there. But yeah, the men are starting to arrive for the U.S. men's team. In fact, cool photo this morning. Ryan Smith was in Italy to welcome Clayton Keller when he landed. So kind of a cool story there. I have to keep an eye on how much Clayton plays. Coming up. I think their first game is on the 12th, so coming up in a few days here. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about the Super Bowl coming up next. Stick around. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.